Hello, my name is Karen Fitzgerald, and I'm the Jewish lay leader here at JBLM. And we can be found at the Main Post Chapel Annex or on Facebook at JBLM Jewish Community. And please be sure you look for JBLM Jewish Community to pull up the correct website. And you can also find the link on the I-Court Chapel by searching. And now I'd like to introduce Caleb Ortega, who will be sharing this week's lessons with you. And thank you for listening.
And I'm representing the Jewish community. Today I'll be going over a midrash, which essentially is a story in Jewish folklore. It's not scriptural, it's just something that we've handed down generation to generation that kind of teaches a few lessons essentially, and it's not just one. Sometimes they're layered, and so the one I have is at least 300 to 400 years old, and I hope that you enjoy. And at the end I'll wrap it up into a small little lesson, at least one that I take from it. So the story goes, there's a kingdom, it's a non-Jewish kingdom, and the king and the queen are raising a young prince, and this prince is studious, completely intelligent, self-motivated, wakes up early, and learns the laws of the land to be the best king when it is his time. So this particular morning, the king and the queen rise, they go to the study, and they notice that the prince is not there. They say, okay, well, normally he's there, so we'll give him a little bit of leeway. They go to his room, and he's not there as well. So he must be hungry. So they go to the kitchen. He's not there. Now panic begins to set into the queen, and she calls in all the greatest hunters. She calls in all the greatest police guards and says, you need to find the prince. We've looked all over the kingdom. We can't locate him. So they begin the search. And the king tries to settle down his wife. Let's sit down. Let's eat. Let's let them do their job, and something will arise. We'll find some good news. So she agrees. They grab some breakfast. They go to the dining hall. They sit down at the table, and they hear a little noise underneath the table. So the king lifts the tablecloth, and they see their son, this young 8-year-old boy, completely naked. And he's holding his arms just like a chicken or a rooster, and he starts clucking around. And they say, what the world? And the king says, son, what are you doing? Get up, you put on some clothes. And the boy doesn't answer, he just clucks, cluck, cluck. The wife, the queen, tries to approach him maybe a little bit softer and says, son, can you come to me? Let me help you here. And he just keeps clucking away, gives off a loud cock-a-doodle-doo. He's just in his own world. So they don't know what to do. As hours go by, the young naked boy is just continually walking around the house, plucking away, looking at things, nibbling, biting, no different than any other rooster in the farm, in the kingdom. So they start to worry, maybe, just maybe, one of our enemies put a curse on our son. What can we do? How can we stop this situation? So they call in all the sages. They call in the magicians, and they're trying to cast spells on the boy. They're trying to free him of whatever the curse is. They're putting little dust upon his feet and just trying to figure out how can we bring this boy back to being a boy and stop him from being a rooster. And 2 days go by, 3 days go by, and the little boy will not put on clothes. Anytime someone tries to put on clothes, he rips it off. Anytime someone tries to bring him a plate of food, he pecks at it and throws away the fork and the spoon. He is in all rights 100% a little rooster. So the king and the queen sitting down have a discussion. What do we do? He just went from being just an unbelievable future leader to a literal rooster. What can we do? So they call in their advisors, and they're having a council. The magicians aren't working. What can we do? And one man raises his hand. He says, I don't know if this is going to help, but I heard that there is a rabbi who's crossing our village, our town. Maybe he can help. So they said, well, get him. We'll do whatever it takes. So they call in the rabbi, and the rabbi standing in front of the king says, I'm grateful and humbled that you would call me here, but in all truth, I'm headed to Israel. I have to rush. And the king says, if you can do what I'm asking you to do, half my kingdom will be yours. I will ensure that every citizen in my land will become Jewish. I need you to change my son from a rooster back to the prince. And he says, well, stop. I don't need half your kingdom. And I definitely do not need your citizens to become Jewish. We accept and love everybody for exactly who and what they are and what they believe. What I will do is I will go and talk with this young Turkey boy and see what I can do. They agree, we'll give anything a shot. So the rabbi goes, and he just so happens to find the young Turkey boy hiding underneath the table, completely naked, pecking away at some bread. And he says, okay, I have an idea, but I'm going to ask you guys to leave. And the king says, well, I'll usher my queen away, but I am going to sit here and watch because I just don't know you. He says, okay, if that's what it has to be, then that's what we'll do. So the queen leaves the room, the king stands and watches, and the rabbi takes off all of his clothes, goes underneath the table, and starts plucking away at the bread with the turkey boy. And the turkey prince looks at him, kind of baffled, clucks a couple times at him, and the rabbi looks, eats a couple pieces of bread, and clucks right back at him. An hour goes by. The king is baffled. He said, okay, so now I have two crazy people living underneath my table. I have no idea what to do. And so he walks away to go talk with the council. The rabbi then kind of looks at the young turkey boy and says, I'm kind of cold. Do you think we could still be a turkey if we put on some clothes? Would that be okay? The boy kind of nods, looks around, thinks about it, clucks a couple times and says, yeah, I think we could put on clothes and still be a turkey. I think that's okay. So they both go, put on their garments, put their clothes back on, and they keep clucking at the bread, clucking around the room. After another hour or so, the rabbi says, do you think it's okay if turkeys actually ate sitting down at a table? I mean, my knees, they kind of hurt, but I still think I could be a turkey and do it. The turkey prince kind of clucks a couple times and ponders it and says, yeah, I don't see why eating at a table doesn't make us any less of a turkey. So they go sit at the table and pluck away on the plate. After a few minutes, the rabbi kind of rubs his neck and says, my neck is kind of hurting. Do you think I could use a fork and a spoon and still be a turkey eating at the table with my clothes on? And the boy kind of, this one is a tough one. Yes, you know what? I don't think that stops you from being a turkey. So they agree. As the day continues, the young turkey boy slowly begins to take back on the role of the young prince and goes on to become the king, goes on to rule the kingdom in a positive manner. And it's not that he ever changed from being a turkey, it's that he realized and matured into his other role, which is the king. The idea of what the story is as we prepare, we've been told we can't be in groups of 50. We're down to groups of 10, and now we're going to be essentially with our children, our families, in our homebound situations. This is a time for us more to be empathetic towards our children, not try to change them, don't create rules, don't try to be rigid with them, become a turkey with them, enjoy them for who and what they are, and while slowly just asking them to mature in specific situations, asking them and maturing them to become the people that they're going to be, rather than just looking at somebody and trying to make them what they're really not. The young man never became a prince. He was a turkey who ruled the kingdom. Our children are who and what they are. All we're doing is guiding them. So for the next few weeks, not that this is anything less of a trial and a tough time for each one of us, but in some ways, we are all a little bit of the turkey boy. We need some empathy. We need people to understand. This is a time where we're all living in high anxiety. This is also a time where we can all be somewhat partial or somewhat understanding of the rabbi, where we can be someone who's empathetic towards each other. And in this time, if we are a little bit more empathetic in our homes, beginning in our homes, when all this is lifted and things go back and go forward, then we might become a little bit more empathetic towards each other. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your faith is. Empathy has more to do with just understanding the human relationship that you have with somebody else, more so than some theology difference or philosophical difference. So coming from a Jewish standpoint in closing, the main premise of what we do and what we believe is that first and foremost, beyond everything, is empathy is the most important thing that we have been implanted in our life. And according to Genesis, when the world was created and the creator of the universe said, I will make them in my image, what he was truly alluding to was empathy more than anything else. That we have a creator who knows what is going on with our hearts and our minds. And that's something that of all faiths we really kind of connect with God over. And yet, we still need to practice doing it with each other. And so I hope that this story just kind of influences and encourages you to look at your son or daughter and have that little bit extra empathy, embrace the weirdness that they have. And inside of my home, I actually do have a little rooster sitting in my living room so that when my kids walk by and they do something that I just find completely out of the ordinary, I look at the rooster and I try to become a little bit more like them rather than me try to make them a little bit more like me.